Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome all members of and observers of the committee to the 422nd meeting of the Committee on the Exercise of the Inalienable Rights of the Palestinian People. The meeting is called to order. The agenda for this meeting is before the committee. If I hear no objection, I shall consider it adopted. It is so decided. At the outset, I would like to highlight that following the breaking the ceasefire by Israel, we are in the midst of a renewed war in Gaza, which has claimed the lives of more than 50,000 Palestinians since the beginning of the conflict, mainly women and children, reaching yet another somber milestone. On March 20, the committee held a virtual event on the margin of the 69th session of the Commission on the Status of Women, titled The Destruction of the Health System in Palestine, a Lifetime in Peril for Women and Girls, highlighting the harrowing stories of medical doctors in Gaza in the immense price paid by women and children in particular, as they represent 70% of the victims of this attack on Palestinians in Gaza. The summary of the event will be shared shortly. In the meantime, the video recording is available on UNISPAL, the committee's website. I encourage you all to watch this powerful video. Later during the meeting, Dr. Younis Khatib, from President of Palestine Red Crescent Society, will brief us about recent attacks on medics in Gaza, where the whole health sector has been destroyed. The resumption of hostilities in Gaza should not distract us from recent developments in the West Bank, where the occupying power has intensified the dispossession of Palestinians through lands, expropriation, evictions, demolitions, and settler violence and settlement expansion. Armed attacks by Israeli forces as well as by settlers in the occupied West Bank have been on the rise. The committee has reiterated that settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem, are illegal under international law and must be stopped, as demanded inter alia in Security Council Resolution 2334 of 2016. Today, we will watch the Oscar-winning documentary No Other Land, which tells the story of families in Masafer Yatta, a Palestinian community facing forcible displacement, and we'll hear briefings by Palestinian co-director Mr. Basel Adra, Mrs. Netta Amar Shiff, a human rights lawyer, and OHCHR. The complete film will be shown in this room at 1 p.m. First, let's turn to agenda item 2. I now have the distinct honor of giving the floor to Minister Riyad Mansour, Permanent Observer of the State of Palestine to the United Nations, for an update on the situation in the occupied Palestinian territory. Mr. Mansour, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And allow me at the outset, to thank you and thank the committee and the division for organizing this very important meeting at this very important moment. Allow me also to welcome my brothers, and I'm so honored, to have them with us. Dr. Younis Al-Khatib, the president of the Palestine Red Crescent Society. I am so proud, to have him, and also my brother Marwan Gilani, his deputy. This is a delegation from the Red Crescent, who are meeting with so many organizations and groups and ambassadors, and will be proudly briefing the Security Council in an open meeting this afternoon at 3 o'clock, and in which they will tell what they want to tell, including about the details of the latest massacre against members of the Red Crescent Society in Rafah, and the situation in general. Also, I am so proud that we have with us my brother, Basel Adra, who is well-known now as a co-director of a movie that received the Oscar, which will be shown in totality at 1 o'clock this afternoon. The movie, as you probably know, is No Other Land, and it is playing in many theaters across the United States and throughout the globe. I am so proud of having him as well, so that he can share with you in the meeting and in the afternoon what he wants to share with all of us about this remarkable movie about Masafer Yatta and the defense of protecting our land and the struggle against settlements as being, illegal enterprise, and it should be dismantled as the International Court of Justice has articulated that settlements are illegal and should be dismantled, and the settlers also should be evacuated. I am so proud that they are with us. This is the first time, I think, since the beginning of this aggression against our people in the Gaza Strip, and it is also unfolding in occupied West Bank. We have distinguished individuals that will be speaking directly in person around the table of the Security Council. The Palestinian people deserve to have as many as possible to come and tell the details of their tragedy and their quest for justice. Having said that, Mr. Chairman, I just want to share with you also, I just came from a meeting for the Friends of UNRWA, in which we listened to an extensive briefing from Mr. Lazzarini from Europe through Zoom, and we had a very important discussion with him. UNRWA is an important organization for all of us. It is a key component, it reflects a key component of the rights of the Palestinian people. When we talk about the Palestinian people to attain their inalienable rights, it means including self-determination, statehood, and the right of the refugees to return to their homes and properties in accordance with international law and UN relevant resolutions. So we had, a discussion with him about the situation of UNRWA and the challenges that it faces. This alliance or group is composed of 123 countries. It was formed from the moment that the Israeli government started unleashing unjustly and illegally their attacks against, UNRWA, to try to dismantle it, to destroy it, because they want to destroy one key component of the three pillars of the rights of the Palestinian people, which is the right of the refugees. Now, Mr. Chairman, the situation is extremely tragic in the Gaza Strip and in the occupied West Bank and in East Jerusalem. We decided, in light of the Arab Summit and the ministerial meeting of the OIC in Jeddah, in which they endorsed the Arab plan to move forward and endorsed the Egyptian-Palestinian and became now Arab plan for the reconstruction of Gaza. In this light, and after the Israeli occupying authorities broke the agreement on ceasefire and the stages of the agreement, which are reflected and legislated in Resolution 2735 of the Security Council, there is tremendous amount of frustrations in the Security Council, among the Arab group, among the OIC group, among the Committee on the exercise of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people, among the African group, among the Latino group, among the European group, among the United Nations, that, after we agree, after 15 months on a ceasefire and on a plan that requires us to go through 3 stages to implement that plan, the Israeli occupying authorities decided, to break it and to resume fighting and to increase the tragedy and the pain of the Palestinian people. So therefore, the Arabs and the Muslims in their summits and in their ministerial meetings adopted a plan, a political plan to go back to the ceasefire, to allowing the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip to receive all the humanitarian needs, to fulfill their humanitarian needs, and to not to allow this crime against humanity of forcing them outside their homeland, the 2 million plus. So therefore, we said that we need this ceasefire to be put back in place. We need humanitarian assistance to be resumed and to stop this blockade and to open the crossings to Gaza Strip. And we need the people to stay there and to start cleaning certain areas in the Gaza Strip, in all corners of the Gaza Strip, so that the international community can provide temporary housing, which is part of the first stage of the reconstruction plan, to move us into the second stage of rebuilding and the third stage of rebuilding more and returning Gaza to the way it was. So what we agreed to in these important conferences is to honor the ceasefire and to put it in place back, as it was decided upon it in this agreement. And then to open the doors for the beginning of the reconstruction plan and to have an important meeting in Egypt, maybe early next month, for the reconstruction plan called for implementation of the reconstruction plan called for by Egypt, Palestine, and now it is an Arab plan and the United Nations, so that we can begin the pledging of money to allow for the beginning of the implementation of the reconstruction plan. So that's the second thing. And the third thing, all of these things, if they are put in place, would allow for allowing the international conference that will be convened in June under the co-chairmanship of Saudi Arabia and France to move in an environment that is conducive to make us see concrete results in the direction of implementing the two-state solution, which means ending this illegal occupation as designated by the International Court of Justice as quickly as possible, and decided by the General Assembly to end this illegal occupation within 1 year. Of course, this conference, not to be an ordinary conference, where we meet and give statements and issue a declaration and business back as usual. This conference to be a different conference, where countries, organizations, anyone to pledge ahead of time of exactly what they are going to do concretely in order to shorten the life of this illegal occupation, so to get us closer to the implementation of the two-state solution. So these are the things that we need to put them back in line so that we can give the Palestinian people, give the people in the Middle East, give the international community hope that peace is possible in our region, but not only the continuation of war and devastation and stealing from us precious component of our people, which is children and women, as we have seen in this massive number of Palestinians killed in the Gaza aggression of children and women. So this is where we are, and because of that, we had meetings with the President of the Security Council. This is, the committee led by Saudi Arabia, the Committee of Six, and others. We are going to have a meeting through lunch with the E10 after this meeting at 1 o'clock in the residence of the Ambassador of Saudi Arabia. We are going to have an open meeting in the Security Council where we will have the opportunity to listen to Dr. Younis, to listen to Mr. Turk, the High Commissioner of Human Rights, and my brother, Basel, will be talking with the President of the Security Council, with members of the Security Council, So we are trying to add as much political pressure so that the Security Council to shoulder its responsibility to hopefully adopt a product that calls for a ceasefire, to adopt a resolution that calls for a ceasefire so that we stop this crime from continuing against our people and to allow for the additional steps, as I explained them, to fit in place. So here in New York, here at the United Nations, in the Security Council, in the General Assembly, we are going to continue with our political offensive to help with the decisions that were made in Cairo at the summit level, in Jeddah at the ministerial level, and the meetings of the Committee of 8, led by Saudi Arabia, and the Committee of 6, led by Saudi Arabia, and also the co-chairing of the international conference, led by Saudi Arabia and France. This is what I wanted you to be informed about that, to be briefed about that. And my twin brother, Ambassador, Sek, and I will also be in the forefront, and also the members of the Bureau of the Committee in joining these forces, in shouldering our responsibilities to see ceasefire in place and to see the following steps taking place in the as efforts, important efforts for the attainment of the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people for self-determination, including self-determination, statehood, and the right of the refugees. This is what I wanted to share with you, Mr. Chairman. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and we are a formidable committee. We have a formidable chairman and leaders in the Bureau, and we will not hesitate to be in the front lines with our Arab brothers, OIC brothers, Africans, Europeans, and all those who are working for peace and justice for the Palestinian people and in the Middle East. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador Riyad Mansour. Thank you for your briefing. Let's keep working closely together with your support in order to fulfill the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people. Thank you very much. Let's turn now to item 3 of the agenda. We will now focus on the main issue of this meeting. We'll hear a presentation by Mr. Basel Adra, Palestinian co-director of the 2025 Academy Award winner for Best Documentary, No Other Land. The film is an Israeli-Palestinian production co-directed by Basel Adra, together with Hamdan Ballal, Yuval Abraham, and Rachel Sow. It tells the story of a young Palestinian activist, our speaker Basel Adra, opposing ever since he was a child the forced displacement of his people by Israel Defense Forces in Masafer Yatta, a region in the occupied West Bank near the South Hebron Hills. We will now watch a short clip of the film before passing the floor to Mr. Adra.
راح يترسم على الأرض. جماعة شو اللي صار؟ في معهم خارطة قاعدين يحددوا عبود الجيب. عمري 5 سنين. ذاكرتي الأولى صحيت على ضوء كشاف. هذا كان الاعتقال الأول لأبوي. عمري 7 سنين. أول مظاهرة بتذكرها أمي أخذتني معها وقعدنا على العشب. هذا جدي
وهذا أبوي. هاي الفترة بديت أفهم إنه أهلي نشطين. فكرت أبوي لا يقهر. اليوم الكزية صارت مركز حياته. هو بناها تحت بيتنا. الياس الصغير ابن أخوي شو بعبر كثير بصوت واحد. الياس لما كنت ولد زيه الناس حوالي بلشوا يصوروا.
أنا اسمي باسل، بسرح مع الغنم الساعة 2 على الخلي، وفي مستوطنين دائما.
مسافر يطا هي المكان اللي كبرت فيه. احنا 20 قرية جنب بعض في جبال الضفة الغربية. بداية تصويري هي بداية نهايتنا.
Palestinians from 8 villages in the occupied southern West Bank could be facing eviction thanks to a ruling by Israel's Supreme Court.
More than 1,000 Palestinians could soon be evicted from their homes.
Masafer Yatta in the southern West Bank.
They face one of the single biggest expulsion decisions since the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories began in 1967.
هو وين الكاميرات وين؟
وين صارتوا؟ نخش كلها كلكم معي.
لا ضروري معي ضروري.
يوم الحين بتروحوا يوم كل كرة ولا بنضل عندهم مرة.
الو الو
كيف انا اسمع النساء في ليش يتقلدكم يا البعده ماشي بقصه من الكيل
طازوت طازوت الشعب يا شيخ فوقك خبرك
Thank you very much. I now give the floor to Mr. Basel Adra. You have the floor.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank the UN Committee for the Palestinian Rights for this opportunity to address the United Nations, and I want to thank Ambassador Dr. Riyad Mansour and Palestine mission to the UN for their work and for having me. I have carried the camera when I was basically a teenager. I start filming what's happening to my village and villages around me, to me and my family, all the violence that's from settlers, from Israeli army. The reason why I start filming it, because all the time I see bulldozers entering our communities, destroying homes, properties, and leaving other violence that's happening on the ground. But I felt that this is even not interested for a lot of journalists to come to write about what's happening or to talk about it. It means like this reality became a routine. And for us, it's not a routine. For the families who are losing their homes and for those who are suffering, it's not a routine, and people should like know about us. And this is why I carried the camera and start to film. I wanted the world to know that we live in this land, that we exist, and to see what we face on daily basis under this brutal occupation. I tried different ways to share the clips that I start filming. I tried social media, sharing videos on social media, writing texts about what's happening. I wrote some articles. And about 5 years ago, I started with my friends and co-directors and colleagues to work on No Other Land documentary as a first experience, to make a documentary that basically, as you just watched, just like telling and showing our daily life under this occupation. And we started this journey together. We faced many challenges, like during the 5 years. It's what moved me and my friends. It's just we want the world to care about what's happening, and I wanted like political impact for what we are facing. The movie succeeded beyond our expectations. Like the name of Masafer Yatta, I brought it to different stages around the world, and last one was the Oscar. Something we didn't expect, but it happened, and we're proud of it. But even after winning the Oscar, we went back to the same reality, and this is like a challenge and a sad moment, to be honest, that to win and to succeed, all this success around the world, showing the story of Masafer Yatta, but at the same time going to the reality that's only changing from worse and to worse. 3 weeks after the winning of the Oscar, there was a masked settlers attack on the village of Susia in one of the Masafer Yatta communities against one of co-directors, Hamdan Ballal. One settler and 2 Israeli soldiers reached him at his home and start beating him in front of his door while he's just trying to protect his family and his children from settlers' attack that was going on in the village. There was like around 20 settlers vandalizing other homes in the same village and destroying properties, stabbing water tanks, smashing cars in the community. And Hamdan tried to protect his family by locking the door of his house and standing outside to prevent the settlers from entering inside his house and attacking his family. The 2 soldiers and the settlers start beating him up with their guns and with their legs by kicking him and hitting him with the guns for 15 minutes, and then abducted him, preventing him from having any medical treatment, and abducted him with another 2 Palestinians from the community to a military base. The Israeli army refused to give any information to his family, to us, about his situation, about what's happening to him. And only after almost 20 hours that he spent on the military base blindfolded and handcuffed and was humiliated all the night, and soldiers just making fun of him and about the Oscar and hitting him, preventing him to have water or any medical treatment by doctors. And when he was brought to the interrogation, they basically just claim that he attacked the settler, and which was untrue. The settler reached to his home and attacked him. Then he had to pay a bill, and only after that he was able to leave the police station and to go to a Palestinian hospital to receive medical treatment. The settlers' violence is happening today and increased in the last 17 months in a huge numbers, and almost every day there is settlers like attacks on Masafer Yatta and all over the communities across the West Bank since the beginning of this year, January 1st, 2025. In Masafer Yatta itself, we had almost 100 settler attack. I want to speak today about a story, and the most fearing story that I ever filmed about settlers' violence. It happened on October 13th, 2023 in my village. It was a Friday day. I was sitting in my home, and I hear the noise outside of children and women screaming, outrageous, and I knew that something happening. I took my camera and ran outside of the door. I saw two settlers, one of them with the rifle and one soldier backing them. They walked from the illegal nearest outpost, coming closest to the mosque, which is almost in the center of my village. The Palestinian prayers were leaving the mosque at that moment. And I continue filming of what's happening. Basically, the settler with the rifle came down to the prayers, like few meters from the soldier that was backing him. And I saw him, I was in a distance like 150 meters, and he hit a Palestinian person in the chest and went back one step and shot the Palestinian in the stomach. And that was the most fearing moment. I was like almost crying, calling the Israeli police, and I wanted anybody to do anything at that moment. Just a few moments later, I realized that the guy that was shot was my cousin, and he was taken to the hospital by private car, spending 30 minutes almost to reach the hospital because all entrances were blocked by the Israeli soldiers in the previous days, and we were hardly moving out and into the city to buy our things. And he was bleeding for half an hour inside the car, and the driver trying to find any entrance to get to the hospital. The soldier simply waved to the settler, and the three of them walked back to the outpost as nothing happened on the ground. And my cousin spent 83 days at the hospital. 60 of them he was in the ICU in a critical situation, fighting for his life. The video was very clear, showing the face of the settler, the crime, and it happened from vacuum. Just a soldier and two settlers decided to come down to the community and commit a crime. I went to the police to give a testimony. Other 6 Palestinians, including my uncle, the father of my cousin, to give testimonies. My cousin were, after 3 months, only able to reach to the police station to give a complaint against the settler. And the surprise, they detained him inside the police station for almost 10 hours and forcing him to pay a bill to be able to go outside. The settlers did not face any detention for this crime that he committed. And after a few months of the crime that he shot my cousin, I filmed the same settler coming to the community, attacking another activist, and some of them were Israeli left-wing activists against the occupation. And the same thing, he's still free, and he's still able to come to any community in Masafer Yatta, to any family, and attack them. The scene of shooting my cousin make everybody in the community in Masafer Yatta and everywhere in the West Bank freaking out and fearing for our safety, because this settler had a full impunity, and we know that it's motivate other settlers to come and to commit crimes against us, and this is what they are doing basically. So this shows that these crimes not just happening because these are radical right-wing terrorist settlers want to commit crimes and want to attack us, the Palestinians, which is true, but this is a state policy, a strategy to displace us from our land and to take it over to build illegal settlements and outposts. Since that crime happened on that Friday in the South Hebron area, we lost 7 Palestinian communities. Whole villages were displaced, and mainly because of settlers, soldiers, violence, We have cases where soldiers and settlers in uniform entering Palestinian homes at midnight, taking the men outside and the whole family outside and pointing a gun to the head of the man of the home and telling him, if you don't leave in 24 hours, we will come back and shoot you to death. And this has led that Palestinians start to flee from these crimes that's happening in Masafer Yatta. So basically, we are in a situation where we are surrounded by these now settlements and illegal outposts and illegal settlements with the Israeli soldiers who's complicit and the police who's complicit and giving impunity and supportive to the settlers to attack Masafer Yatta and other communities across the West Bank. And the goal is very clear, is to taking over our land and to build their illegal settlements and outposts and to expand their projects on our land. This policy, combined with the policies of the home demolitions and the properties demolitions, as you saw in the clip where a Palestinian family their home was destructed by the Israeli bulldozers. This family, I know them personally. I know they lost their home since 2019. At least 5 times the army come and destroy it, and they rebuild it. The army come and destroyed it, and they rebuild it. And last time they lost their home was in May 2022. And since then, they were not able to build a new home. They are now living in an ancient cave in that community. And the last demolition happened was right after a court decision, Israeli Supreme Court decision against Masafer Yatta, which is to give the Israeli military the green light to displace 1,000 Palestinian people in order, under the pretext and the claim that this is a firing zone area. It was designated earlier in the 80s, 14 communities out of the 20 in Masafer Yatta as a firing zone area, which is basically to displace the 14 communities in order to give the land to the Israeli military to do military exercises and trainings in our land. But we know that this is not the truth, and even though it's violating the international law, today the truth in the ground is very clear. There is many Israeli illegal outposts and settlements being built on the ground, but Palestinians are not allowed to build, and this is how the law is weaponized against us, where we as Palestinians living in these communities, illegal for us to build a home, illegal to build a school, illegal to have a clean water, illegal to have electricity, roads, but the opposite for the settlers, where the state facilitate the building of settlements, illegal outposts, roads, whatever they want, these settlers. It's really clear, and the movie show it how systematically happening on the ground, how our communities are squeezed more and more by the demolitions, by settlers' violence, by the attacks that we face both from soldiers and settlers, and the settlements and illegal outposts are growing more and more on our land. We are continuing our struggle against this crimes, against the occupation, against our displacement, and we are steadfastness on our land. But I don't know for how long we can keep holding these crimes and facing these attacks and this brutality and keep stand on our land. It's a struggle that my father started it, and his father, my grandfather as well, started this struggle against this occupation and displacement. This is why I'm here today. This is why I made No Other Land, and this is why I continue to work and to come to talk to the world at the OHCHRs, here at the UN, everywhere I can around the world, to tell my story and the story of the Palestinian people in Masafer Yatta, in the West Bank, in Gaza, in East Jerusalem, elsewhere, until we reach our freedom and to live on our land with freedom and dignity. And I hope that my daughter and my nephew will not have to do the same work in the future, and they will be living in a different reality where they have full rights as human beings and doesn't have to live under rules of foreign military. But unfortunately, with the reality that we are living today, with what we are facing, I'm not hopeful. But that doesn't mean that we should give up. And that means that we should work together, not just keep speaking, but really to do more and to work more to try to change the reality and to hold accountability to the occupation, to the Israeli settlers, to the soldiers, to everyone who committing crimes in order to enforce the international law, in order to enforce a solution. Thank you.
Mr. Adra, thank you a lot for framing the story of this documentary and your own personal story and grave ongoing displacement, home demolitions, evictions, and dispossessions of the Palestinian people. We'll watch the entirety of the documentary in this conference room at 1 p.m. Turning to our next speaker, I would like to welcome to the meeting Mrs. Netta Amar Shiff, a human rights lawyer who will connect remotely. She has been working on Palestinian rights since 1998. Her expertise is international human rights and humanitarian law, with focus on planning rights, demolition, and forcible displacement in the West Bank, as well as constitutional and administrative law. Her doctoral research focuses on the forcible displacement and Bedouin in the Negev and West Bank. She is the co-founder of the Democratic Mizrahi Rainbow and Akoti sister woman organization. She worked with the Israeli Civil Rights Organization and was a board member of B'Tselem and Voice of Women. You have the floor, Mrs. Netta Amar.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. I would like to thank the members of the UN Division for Palestinian Rights, my colleague Basel Adra, and the co-director of the film No Other Land, and the Office of the Permanent Observer of Palestine to the UN for extending the invitation to come and share with you all today some of my thoughts and inputs. So first, following almost 3 decades of intense work as human rights lawyer for Palestinian human rights in occupied territory, but second, also as an activist for shared Jewish and Arab life in Israel-Palestine, from my particular perspective as Mizrahi, cherishing Jewish life and history in Arab and Muslim countries, and struggling locally for equality, democracy, social justice, and peace. Dear members of the committee, I would like to start with some positive notes and then move, if I may, back to the very difficult reality in which we live day by day, especially since the 7th of October and the war. Many might not know, to start on a positive note, but until the Israeli occupation in 1967, Masafer Yatta hamlets were not all extensions of the ancient village of Yatta. Rather, it was the Israeli military occupation that restrained Palestinian development through a combination of destruction of property, expropriation of land, non-recognition of communities and villages, and zoning policies, such as the declaration of the area of Fire Zone 918 in Masafer Yatta in the early 1980s. So a little bit of quick history. The villages such as, for example, Jinba, a village which was attacked twice in the last weekend, first by settlers, wounding 7, of whom 5 were hospitalized, including minors, and second, by more than 100 soldiers and settler soldiers. The village of Jinba have in fact overgrown Yatta, turning into a vital economic and cultural center. It was the Israeli occupation and even pre-67 invasion to the then Jordanian territory that then enabled the unauthorized destruction of the southern villages of Jinba and Merkaz, cutting off the lifeline of Palestinian economy in South Hebron Hills already before the Israeli occupation in 67. This ancient history was brought in front of the Israeli High Court of Justice, only to be dismissed and ignored. In a request I submitted as a litigating lawyer in February 2021 in the name of the local village council of Masafer Yatta to join as amicus curiae to the High Court of Justice petition against mass eviction orders from 1999 and 2000. Historical evidence and artifacts were presented to the court in an effort to convince the court to look history in the eyes. And I want to share with you some of these findings. Very quickly. So you can see, this is the courtesy of Professor Michael Fischbach. So you can see Khirbet Bir al-Eid already mentioned on the 1879 Palestine Exploration Fund map. You can see also another village being attacked again and again by settlers today, the village of Gawawis. Also, you can see that, and also you can see the village of Khirbat al-Fakhit, where I have a case against the destruction of the school there. So these are ancient villages the Israeli High Court refused to recognize, even though evidence was brought in front of it. You could also see, I just want to give you an example. You see, this is a book by Yaakov Habakuk. He's a person from the Israeli Ministry of Defense. So he published a book called The Hebron Hill Cave Dwellers in 1985. And he said that, he conducted an anthropological tour in the area, and he found this, a container of grains, which was very ancient. It's called Soma. And he said, in the villages, in the hamlets where I've seen the Soma, then it was a signal of historical permanent residency in the area. So this is the book that was brought by the state to the High Court. And, when you go, and this is, for example, the Soma that was found in Jinba, okay, from the 1940s. So this picture was brought in front of the court. You can see here a cave and Hajj's from Tuba signals the place where her mother actually passed away in the cave, signaling how ancient it was. And also, again, ancient somas in Mghar al-Abid. So, what we can see is that these findings were all, a lot of work was invested and it was brought in front of the court, but the court completely dismissed it. So this is about, the history, the unrecognized history of Masafer Yatta. But the 7th of October has not only, it signaled a new era, it's signaled a new reality. Since that date, Masafer Yatta has been the target of extensive settlement activities, both in advancing outpost expansion and increasing settler violence. According to Ynet article, the military has warned against a 30% uprise in soldier violence against Palestinians. And in a court hearing, in a petition I filed against settler violence in Fire Zone 918, the state admitted that there was no indictment against any of the settlers for which complaints were filed. And I constantly hear and feel from Palestinians as well, this is not, and I feel it as a human rights activist, this is not the same military we know from before the 7th of October. Armed settlers have been incorporated formally as defense platoons into the regular military forces. They received drones, vehicles, arms, and technology unlike before. As we know, settler violence phenomenon in the South Hebron Hills has been for years closely connected with political colonization, interest in ensuring the contiguity of Jewish settlement between the E1 area in East Jerusalem and the Beersheba in northern Negev area. It was already found by Akevot organization in 1981, and I want to bring you the script for that in a government meeting. Sorry. Okay, I'm just going to read it to you because I have a problem here. So you have a government meeting in July 1981, a hearing of the Joint Settlement Committee for the Government and the Zionist Organization, a courtesy of Akevot organization. The script says as following: Ariel Sharon, Ministry of Agriculture, offers the military officers training areas. And he says, we would like to offer additional training areas. We think that additional areas should be closer to the border in the Southern Hebron Hills, adjacent to the Judea desert. The phenomenon I mentioned earlier, that Arab villagers expand to the desert area, we have an interest in expanding these areas, in these areas, and you can get additional training zones as well. So we have much interest in your military presence in the area. So settler interest in this area have not started in recent years. It was the very reason for the declaration of Masafer Yatta as a closed military area, or most of it, was settler interest. So these settler interest upscaled, if we take a broader look at the West Bank, as the Minister of Defense Israel Katz recently declared that the construction of what they call the Fabric of Life Road, and is also known as, Naftali Bennett mentioned, known as the Sovereignty Road, is resumed in the E1 area. Such road will not only result in the suffocation of the cities of El Azariya, Abu Dis, and the Sawahra, and the Bedouin communities of Jabal al-Baba and Wadi Jimal, it also signals the end of the two-state solution. Such move must be stopped. Settler violence and settler expansion is at the point of no return, if not stopped. But I want to also connect it to something larger that is happening in Israel, especially as an Israeli citizen. Settler violence and expropriation of land in the Masafer Yatta area is highly connected to what started in January 2023 with the declaration of the judicial overhaul in Israel. So we've seen dramatic changes under this government in the structure of the military regime, turning it into a settler regime rather than a military regime. In fact, one can already speak of the end of the military regime in the occupied territory as we know it. And I will elaborate. A major change in the structure, functions, and responsibility of the Israeli civil administration took place in the aftermath of 2022 Israeli elections, whereby de jure and institutionally, the Israeli civil administration's civilian powers were divided, basically delegated to a new position, the deputy head. And he's responsible for a new administration that was established called the Settlement Administration. Okay, this Settlement Administration means that the deputy reports to the second minister within the Ministry of Defense, Bezalel Smotrich. So we have two ministers. One is the Minister of Defense and another one in another ministry within that ministry. While the second minister reports to the prime minister, primarily to the Ministry of Defense, he's motivated by explicitly by settlement expansionist and annexationist interest in Area C. This marks dramatic change in Israel's Area C policy in the nature of the military regime. The settlement administration is in fact a state within a state, incorporating the occupied West Bank into the Israeli regime de jure, in fact sustaining the de jure illegal annexation of the West Bank. The years-longer functions of the Israeli civil administration have changed. We have to acknowledge that. and work against that. And they're currently divided between the head of the ICA, the Israeli Civil Administration, and his deputy. So most of the functions of the deputy require only the consent, require only alerting and informing the military commander. Very few functions require the consent of the head of the civil administration, and only in security-related issues, the consent of the military commander. Okay, so the new division of power extends in some cases even to Area B and bypass the current lawful change of command within the military and within the Israeli regime, whereby the ICA, the Israeli Civil Administration, was subject to COGAT, the coordinator for the occupied territories, and then to the military commander reporting to the Minister of Defense. Now we have also two legal advisory offices. We have the legal advisory office for the Israeli Civil Administration and the legal advisor for the settlement administration, changing the very nature of legal advisory altogether. So their loyalty is highly political rather than professional, rather than to international law and to domestic public and human rights law. A petition submitted to the Israeli High Court, still pending, rejected the legality of the new structure and division of powers as undermining the very legal status of the West Bank as occupied territory, being contradictory to international humanitarian law and Israeli basic laws. Until a final Israeli High Court of Justice ruling, the new changes introduced are operational, and consequently, it's highly important to understand them and revoke them as soon as possible in any other means outside the courtroom. Just to summarize very quickly the key powers that this deputy has, this new settlement administration have, to enhance access to information. So it has enhanced access to information and control over freedom of information requests, control over planning, building, zoning, control over demolition policy, over declared state land and trespassing. You have in Masafer Yatta the situation that Palestinians do not understand. How come land that was previously recognized by the Israeli Civil Administration as private land is now open for settler grazing and for settler cultivation, even olive groves. This is because of the new deputy head of the Israeli Civil Administration changing regulations. So all Palestinian private land, because it's not registered in land registry as most area in Area C, it is actually under survey. So areas under survey are now from this, according to this new settlement administration, is available for settlement, grazing, expansion, whatever they want to do. Okay. The other two functions is legalization of settlements, outposts, and legalization of agricultural farms, grazing zones in nature reserves and forests. So to just summarize, the 7th of October has not only seen massacres and ongoing bloodshed, it signals a new era for Palestinians and settlers living in the West Bank and for Israelis as well. A change of the very nature of the military regime towards the de jure annexation era. The change of the very nature of the legal arena, including diminishing the functions of the legal advisory of the West Bank. A speedy change of the geography and demography of the occupied territories, involving ethnic cleansing of Area C, applying both military measures, such as what's happening in the Jenin camp, and I cannot elaborate, and civilian powers. To bring it back to this distinguished forum, to the international community, it is clear that struggling the regime change elaborated above is the main responsibility of the citizens of Israel. Many of us are doing our best in the streets, the court, public work, and grassroots work. I believe in my people's willpower to fight injustice internally for the communities that are exposed for inequality and racism, and for the victims of the 7th of October, and also externally to the Palestinian people that have been suffering unbearable degrees of ethnic cleansing, of colonization, and of apartheid. I do my utmost to make it happen, despite the very harsh conditions these days bring about. From a Mizrahi perspective, Jewish Arab life is not only a necessity to end the conflict, it is actually an honor and a blessing to both people to live together. It means imagining normal life. Indeed, in light of the devastating condition and bleak future, we locals in Israel and Palestine feel that the judicial remedy is closing quickly, and we human rights lawyers particularly remain powerless. We call for help. It is therefore, for all these reasons, that immediate international intervention is crucial at this point, not to replace local powers, to join local powers, the brave Palestinian residents of Masafer Yatta first and foremost, and us, the Israelis that accompany them, in achieving justice for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Amar Shiff, for sharing your expertise and long experience on the denial of human rights of Palestine. We now move to our third expert, speaker, Mr. James Turpin, Chief Prevention and Sustaining Peace Section of the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights in New York. He previously led the OHCHR office in Palestine, managing some 25 staff located in Ramallah, Gaza, East Jerusalem, and Hebron, with a mandate to monitor and report on all human rights violations in the occupied Palestinian territory, promote human rights throughout technical cooperation activities, and led the humanitarian protection cluster. He recently returned from a visit to Masafer Yatta that I'm sure he will inform us about. Mr. Turpin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies. Allow me first to convey the regrets of the Assistant Secretary General for Human Rights, Ilse Brans-Karius, who was unable to be here today. And I'd also like to congratulate Basel Adra and his team for the Oscar. UN reports don't win awards, and we sometimes wonder whether they even get read. But this documentary, No Other Land, brings to life in a compelling and accessible way what the UN has documented in countless reports. As you know, for more than 15 years, the UN Human Rights Office has monitored, reported, and alerted on the human rights situation in the occupied Palestinian territory and the wider-ranging violations that stem from 57 years of military occupation by Israel. Palestinians have been denied their most basic human rights, from the right to self-determination to freedom of movement to an adequate standard of living. And at the crux of the protracted occupation has been the issue of land in the occupied Palestinian territory, which, as you know, far precedes the 7th of October 2023, or the increasing frequency of military operations we now see in the West Bank, which has destroyed refugee camps, severely restricted movement, and displaced tens of thousands of people. Let me begin with a few words on the current situation in Gaza. And as the Ambassador noted earlier, the High Commissioner for Human Rights will be briefing the Security Council this afternoon on this issue. We're deeply concerned about the shrinking space for civilians who have been forcibly displaced by the Israeli army from large swathes of territory. Since the resumption of its military campaign on the 18th of March, the Israeli army has issued 10 mandatory evacuation orders, essentially displacement orders, covering large areas across all governorates of the Gaza Strip. Over half of the Strip appears to be under such orders now. Tens of thousands of Palestinians are reportedly trapped in Khan Younis and Rafah. Civilians have been who have endured multiple displacement due to such orders are again facing the stark choice of being displaced once more or staying and risking their lives and those of their loved ones. And those who are displaced are not guaranteed safety. Israel must immediately end its blockade of the humanitarian assistance and refrain from acts amounting to forcible transfer of Gaza's population. Forcible transfer is a serious violation of international humanitarian law and constitutes a crime under international law. The UN Human Rights Office has for years reported on the use of unnecessary and disproportionate force against Palestinians, the restriction on movement, the displacement of tens of thousands of people, and the continuous settlement activities across the occupied Palestinian territory. While there may be confusion on the ground, the international law is very clear. Last year, the International Court of Justice issued an advisory opinion stating that Israel's policies and practices in the occupied Palestinian territory, including the maintenance and expansion of settlements, amount to the annexation of large parts of that territory. This undermines the territorial integrity essential to the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and violates the prohibition against acquiring territory by force. The transfer of governing powers also facilitates Israel's provision of services for settlers in settlements and outposts. This further institutionalizes long-standing patterns of systematic discrimination, segregation, oppression, domination, violence, and other inhumane acts against the Palestinian people. It also further institutionalizes control of the occupied Palestinian territory. The August 2024 findings of the Ad Hoc Conciliation Commission for the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination stated that the acts of segregation may amount to a situation of apartheid if no action is taken by Israel to effectively address the issues raised. As reflected in the High Commissioner's most recent report on Israeli settlements, the ongoing transfer of powers over the occupied Palestinian territory from the Israeli military to the Israeli government is facilitating the continuing illegal advancement of Israeli settlements in the West Bank and the steady integration of the occupied West Bank into the State of Israel. Israel continues to take measures to transfer its civilian population in East Jerusalem and to forcibly transfer Palestinians within and from the occupied territory. There are now around 737,000 Israeli settlers in the West Bank, and almost a third of them in East Jerusalem alone. And steps are regularly taken to accelerate construction of additional housing units in new and existing Israeli settlements in East Jerusalem. This is accompanied by demolition of Palestinian properties and structures, mostly under the pretext of lacking building permits, which are almost impossible for Palestinians to obtain. Israel undertakes the illegal appropriation of occupied land for Israeli settlements through declarations of state land and the establishment of military zones, as we've seen in Basel's film, nature reserves and cultural and agricultural sites. According to OHCHR's verification, since the 7th of October 2023, 908 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank and East Jerusalem, including 190 children, 18 women, and at least 5 persons with disabilities. Settler violence combined with arbitrary movement restrictions devastates Palestinian livelihoods. This targeting of Palestinians' economic, social, and cultural rights forms a part of the coercive environment that induces their departure and may amount to forcible transfer. Livelihoods centered around olive production are particularly targeted by Israeli state and settler violence. Many Palestinian farmers are unable to harvest their trees due to violence and movement restrictions, effectively destroying local Palestinian economies. Impunity undermines the ability of human rights law to direct us towards solutions. Israel systematically fails to prevent or punish settler attacks. with a reported policy of police non-enforcement in relation to settler violence, leaving Palestinians bereft of any hope of obtaining justice and accountability. In a study of 174 incidents of settler violence, 65 complaints were lodged, and only one has led to the filing of an indictment. In the past year alone, approximately 680 Palestinians were forcibly displaced by settler violence and access restrictions, mainly in Bedouin and other herding communities in Area C. In many cases, this may amount to forcible transfer, which is a crime under international law which may give rise to individual criminal responsibility. In short, the line between settler and state violence has blurred to a vanishing point, further enabling violence and impunity. Israel's settlement growth continues at an ever-increasing rate, and as found by the International Court of Justice, constitutes ongoing internationally wrongful acts by Israel. This represents a profound failure of the international community of states and its rules-based order, including in relation to the prohibitions on annexation and discrimination, as well as to the fulfillment of Palestinians' right to self-determination. The UN Human Rights Office has consistently called on Israel to cease immediately all new settlement activity, evacuate all settlers from the occupied Palestinian territory, and make reparations for the damage caused by decades of illegal settlement. Israel's unlawful presence in the occupied Palestinian territory must end, as affirmed by the International Court of Justice. The expropriation of land and dispossession of Palestinians in the occupied Palestinian territory has not occurred in a vacuum. We have also been deeply troubled by the dangerous manipulation of language and disinformation, which has included efforts to spread fear and incite hatred, including abhorrent dehumanizing narratives from political leaders, whether they are insidious or explicit. We must resist any normalization of proposals for annexation or forced transfer in Gaza, which could threaten the peace and security of Palestinians and Israelis and of the wider region. Defending and maintaining the international edifice of human rights and the law is everyone's responsibility. Now, nothing I've said here today has not already been documented and set out in countless UN reports. The question is, for the UN, is when will it act to stop the violations? The Oscar-winning documentary film has demonstrated the human impact of what I've been talking about, of the occupation and of settler violence on ordinary Palestinian families across the West Bank. Settlements and land expropriation are illegal, violate human rights, and make the two-state solution unviable. Human rights offer the best pathway to peace for Palestine and Israel, whether through a two-state solution that respects all, or through two states that respect all human rights, or any other solution that may be proposed. Human rights must be a reality for Palestinians because they have not enjoyed their basic rights for too long. Thank you.
I thank Mr. Turpin, and we are greatly appreciative for sharing your political, legal, and personal analysis of the ongoing situation of the occupation in the West Bank and East Jerusalem in particular. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, now we will turn to another grave situation unfolding in Gaza, where recently more than a dozen medical staff, paramedics, and ambulance workers have been killed by the Israeli military, and many others are still being detained in inhuman conditions since the start of the conflict. We'll hear from Dr. Younis Al-Khatib, President, Palestine Red Crescent Society since 2000. Dr. Al-Khatib has been actively engaged with the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement for decades. He was elected to the governing board of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies from 2017 to 2022. Dr. Al-Khatib participated in a number of international missions with the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement and participated in a number of commissions and working groups, including the Disaster Preparedness and Relief Commission and the Youth and Volunteers Commission. He will also brief the Security Council at the meeting this afternoon at 3 p.m., and we are honored to have him with us today. You have the floor, Dr. Khatib.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Excellencies, thanks for receiving me here. I have the honor to address this meeting. I would recall my first encounter with the committee in the late 80s and early 90s when it was housed within our premises in Cairo, in Palestine Hospital, to listen to testimonies. So that was my first encounter with this. But I would like also to congratulate you against all odds that you have done such a great work, still trying your best to bring to the attention of the world the misery of the Palestinians. I would also like to mention, thanks, Basel, we congratulate you actually for this award. But you bring back memories for me from Masafer Yatta and Masafer Yatta. As Palestine Red Crescent, we used to have a training center in the area to train people, Palestinian young people, on camp management, risk reduction, disaster response, sanitation, and so on. The environment helps. What Basel explains helps really, that environment helps to conduct such training. Actually, around 6 years ago, we have been prevented by the Israeli army from reaching that area. But that, to me, resembles what's going on in the West Bank right now. Within the bigger Israeli plan, what goes on in the northern part of the West Bank, and the Jordan Valley, Basel talked about communities that has been dismantled في المسافر in the Jordan Valley as well. This is the target. It is a fight for the land. This is what is going on in the north of the West Bank. This is what the Israeli defense minister said, I think yesterday or the day before, about the West Bank is the heart of Israel. And this is also a question for the international community. When we talk, Your Excellency, Dr. Riyad, about the two-state solution, when one partner does not believe that the end result of a peace process should be, I won't say the Palestinian state, should be that Palestinians exercise their rights as human beings. Yes, there will be more and more evictions if the international community allows it. Yes, what we have seen since 2021, with new checkpoints, new gates, new blockades to restrict Palestinian movement. The Israeli occupying forces are trying to create either eviction, displacement, and get out of the country, or ghettos where Palestinians will be forced to live in. Most of the Palestinian cities now are totally controlled in that respect. We come here as humanitarians to address a humanitarian cause, but believe me, it went beyond any limits. Some might think this matter could be solved by more humanitarian aid, by spending more money to ease things in Gaza or the West Bank. But in reality, the resolution of this conflict, which is not a natural disaster, lies within politicians, lies within your hands. Don't expect that humanitarians will do your job. Sorry to say that, but it did go beyond any limits. When humanitarian aid workers are targeted the way our team was targeted in Gaza, when international aid workers are targeted in Gaza, when UN premises, ICRC premises are targeted in Gaza. This is your responsibility. This is the responsibility of the international community. How could we stand for that? How can we stop the killing of our people? 15 aid workers went out to save lives. I had some words here. This is my first visit to the UN. Like the paramedics risked their lives. We don't train our people, our paramedics, to risk their lives. We train them to save lives. Others should respect the emblem that they carry, the mission that they are out for. They should not be attacked. Not just our missions, but all humanitarian missions, whether international or local. We are having the highest number of lost humanitarian aiders in any conflict in 18 months. Not just the killing is intentional, but also the dehumanization of Palestinians. After 18 months, Your Excellency, it was mentioned in the ceasefire agreement that temporary housing, prefabs will be allowed into Gaza. How many winters do Gazans have to pass through with tents and sheets? I remember since the very first day in the Paris conference in November 2023, and after that, the Amman meeting and the second Paris conference, our main concern is to have prefab houses into Gaza. And there is a solution to have proper shelters for displaced people in a dignified way as human beings to go through this crisis. But it was intentional, not to allow a dignified living for the Palestinians under such circumstances. From day one, the objective was to send people out, push the Palestinians outside Gaza Strip, push the Palestinians outside their land. The way I feel it is 1948 is in continuation. We as a humanitarians don't have a solution for that. It's unbearable anymore. It is the international community who should address this, not for the sake of the Palestinians, but for the sake of your international system. For the sake of the international system that at least somebody in my age, since I was born, this is what we were taught. International law, Geneva Conventions, the International Court of Justice, the UN, the agencies. This is what is at stake now. At least this is my humble opinion. But we have to wake up and do something about it before it's too late. It's all under attack. Not just starting with Gaza war, not just starting with Ukraine war, even before that. There were signs that our system is at a threat. Not our system. I think many of us come from the underdeveloped or the third world. I don't know what they call it anymore, but this is the Western system that was transported to us after the Second World War. And we all accepted the game as it is. The situation in Gaza is dire. The targeting of our team, and here I say always, stop stop counting, for God's sake. Those are not numbers. Our 9-member team at the 6 civil defense and the 1 UN officer, these are not numbers. Those are lives that we have lost. Those are families that are in agony. Those are our colleagues, our friends, our sons that we have lost. No aid is coming into Gaza. How can this world accept any community anywhere in the world to be kept away from food? And not just that, either you die by a bullet or you die starvation. This is where they want to lead us. The souls of our colleagues ask for justice. Calls, who can we call? We can only call on you, the international community. Please, give us answers to what happened. Those guys, until the very moment, the Israeli soldiers, talk to them in Hebrew, and all of that is recorded, they were alive in the hands of the Israeli soldiers. Until that moment, they were alive. Well, I just want to end up here by saying the responsibility is heavy. The days to come are not easy. We are called, all of us, to address seriously this concern. Palestinians deserve to live in peace. Everybody in this world deserves to live in peace. But why should Palestinians be denied that right? After 75 years. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Dr. Al-Khatib, for sharing with us not only your decade-long experience with the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, but especially for sharing the horrific stories of attacks on medical personnel and facilities in Gaza. Thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I now open the floor for any comments from members and observers of the committee. Are there any comments? Egypt, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, my dear brother, Chairperson, Ambassador Kolisek, and really one is deeply touched with the very rich statement and remarks made by Dr. Younis Al-Khatib, President of the Palestinian Red Crescent. He has said everything. He was very honest, straightforward, and of course his outcry is well felt at our hearts. Needless, of course, to say that we here, members of that committee, observers in that committee, we have that collective responsibility to respond to the appeal made by Dr. Younis Al-Khatib, by my dearest brother, Minister Riyad Mansour, and your good self, distinguished chair. Our collective duty is to find solutions that goes further beyond the humanitarian aspect. Yes, humanitarian network and all the OHCHR, whoever is operating in Gaza is doing, all the agencies are doing their best, UNRWA in Gaza, but of course we want to keep our eye sharply focused on how to fulfill the Palestinian rights to statehood, how to get out of that difficulty once and for all. And our key message as Arabs, as neighboring countries, as Muslims, there is an extended hand for peace. No one is interested in the business of war anymore. There is an opportunity. Had Israel show sufficient wisdom and eagerness to integrate itself in the region is ready and their hands are extended for peace. But if had the far right governing now in Israel continue their illusions about deterrence, expansion, and so on, no. That will not bring them the peace they want. That will not bring peace and stability to the Middle East. And that this is our core message as the voices of peace in the region. Egypt is at the heart of the peace camp in the Middle East. We have initiated the whole issue when President Sadat visited Jerusalem. We're here to support our Palestinian brothers and sisters till the furthest end, till the full realization of the two-state solution, to save the two-state solutions, to make the Palestinian state a full reality, full seat in the UN, full recognition by all of us. This is the key to peace. This while peaceful coexistence and the fact that Palestine will be a full state is the key to all the crises and the difficulties in the region. The moment we do such thing, peaceful coexistence will prevail. Everyone can live in peace. And of course, we can defeat radicals at all fronts, in both sides. Radicals do not only exist in one side of the equation. No, radicals are on both sides. And our best ability to defeat radicalization is by nurturing peace and investing in peace, ending the war, ending the suffering, fulfilling the Palestinian aspirations to statehood. They are not an exception, and they will have it with the help of everyone. The whole international community, we do not customize a rule for someone and make exceptions. No, the single rule applies to everyone, and Palestinians have every right to call for independence, the termination of that foreign occupation. Where else in the world would you hear the term settlements? Where can someone tell me where else in the world we see settlers? This is a language of the medieval ages that cannot be tolerated in the 21st century, cannot be tolerated by anyone. Thank you. This is my core message, distinguished chairperson, my dear brother, Ambassador Kolisek, and distinguished members of the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, dear brother Osama. Thank you, Egypt. I now give the floor to Malaysia.
Thank you, Chair, for giving me the floor. Thank you as well to the briefers for the sobering briefing. We would like to congratulate Mr. Basel Adra on his Oscar for the excellent work, excellent film that he made. I also wish to extend Malaysia's heartfelt condolences to Dr. Younis Khatib and the Palestine Red Crescent Society over the barbaric killing of its personnel by Israel on 23rd March. I understand that the Security Council will be meeting this afternoon to discuss this unacceptable crime. Chair, we are witnessing wide-scale violations of international law, particularly international humanitarian law, in the occupied Palestinian territory. Israeli occupation forces are killing Palestinian civilians, destroying civilian infrastructure, blocking the entry of humanitarian aid, and targeting humanitarian workers, despite them clearly identifying themselves. We deplore the resumption and escalation of hostilities in the Gaza Strip since the ceasefire was violated by Israel on 18 March 2025. It is clear that the resumption of the genocide in Gaza is motivated by political survival rather than the purported objective of securing the release of the hostages. The announcement by Israeli government that the Israeli military will, quote, dissect, unquote, Gaza in efforts to exercise greater control over Gaza territories is deeply worrying. The situation in the West Bank is also equally concerning. We are deeply alarmed by the joint statement by the Israeli Ministers of Defense and Finance on the Israeli government's intention to permanently acquire, colonize, and annex the entirety of the occupied West Bank. This is a clear contravention of the international consensus of a two-state solution. It is imperative that Israel be held to account for its grave violations of international law. The forcible acquisition of land must not be normalized under any circumstances, for international law is very clear on its prohibition. It is imperative that we speak out and take action against parties that seek to forcibly displace Palestinians from their homeland. We appreciate that some countries are imposing sanctions on Israeli extremist settlers. However, such sanctions should be applied towards the entire settlement enterprise in order to be an effective deterrent to Israel's nefarious plans to permanently acquire, colonize, and annex Palestinian land. Chair, in conclusion, rest assured that Malaysia will continue to work closely with other members of the committee and the wider UN membership to advocate for the inalienable rights of the Palestinian people to self-determination, as well as for the establishment of a sovereign state of Palestine. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Malaysia. I now give the floor to Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We would like to join other colleagues in thanking very much the briefers and the panelists for their very moving remarks. Pakistan, in the strongest possible terms, condemns the continued aggression and atrocities committed by Israeli occupying forces in the occupied Palestinian territory, particularly in Gaza. The indiscriminate violence has claimed thousands of innocent Palestinian lives, including women, children, medical personnel, and humanitarian workers, marking yet another dark chapter in Israel's brutal occupation. Pakistan denounces Israel's latest military offensive aimed at establishing new security corridors, including the illegal seizure of the Morag corridor and further annexation of Palestinian land. The deliberate targeting of a UN-run clinic in Jabalia which sheltered over 700 displaced civilians, demonstrates Israel's blatant disregard for international law and humanitarian principles. These actions, coupled with Israel's clear intent to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from their homeland, constitute war crimes under international law. Of particular concern is the sacrilegious storming of the Al-Aqsa Mosque complex by Israeli occupation forces during the holy occasion of Eid al-Fitr. This provocative act not only violates the sanctity of one of Islam's holiest sites, but also demonstrates Israel's determination to escalate tensions and pursue its expansionist agenda at the expense of regional peace. The massive destruction of civilian infrastructure and forced displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians through relentless bombardment and ground operations are both morally reprehensible and legally indefensible. Such blatant violations of international law, both in Gaza and the West Bank, must stop forthwith. All Pakistanis feel the pain and suffering of their Palestinian brothers and sisters and stand in complete solidarity with them. We reaffirm our unwavering support for the Palestinian people's right to self-determination and call for the establishment of an independent, viable, and contiguous Palestinian state based on pre-1967 borders with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. The international community must act decisively to prevent further loss of innocent lives and preserve the sanctity of holy sites. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Pakistan. I now give the floor to Cuba.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente.
Thank you very much, Chair, Palestinian brothers and sisters, distinguished briefers and speakers. We'd like to thank you for your valuable inputs today. We've said this before and we'll say it again now. We are deeply hurt by the tragic situation today experienced by the noble Palestinian people who are the victims of an Israeli genocide. This humanitarian genocide in the occupied Palestinian territories is the result of more than 7 decades of abuse, and we condemn the attacks by Israel against the helpless Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip, renewed on the 18th of March, blatantly defying the ceasefire and causing the deaths of hundreds of Palestinians. We also reject in the strongest possible terms the plans, policies and actions geared towards bringing about the forcible displacement of the Palestinian people from their land. Gaza belongs to the Palestinians. Israel has knowingly killed more than 50,000 Palestinians and has wounded more than 113,000 in the Gaza Strip. 13% of the victims are women and girls whose inalienable right to free determination self-determination continues to be denied. We call for urgent justice and end to the genocide. We need immediate restoration of the ceasefire in Gaza and the entry of humanitarian aid without restrictions into Palestinian territories. This is very vital indeed at this time. We're concerned by the attempts to silence outcry at the Palestinian genocide. We have seen actions from settlers and others, including against Hamdan Ballal, the filmmaker of No Other Land. The expansionist intentions of Israel, who seeks to seize Gaza with the complicity of the government of the USA, will not extinguish the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people to live in their land in an independent, sovereign country within the pre-1967 borders, with East Jerusalem as its capital, which also guarantees the right to return for refugees. I'd like to conclude by reiterating our steadfast support for the mission of Palestine, which must, as a priority, become a fully fledged member of the United Nations. As previously mentioned by the permanent representative of Egypt, this is a vital step towards fully settling the conflict so that Palestine can take up its rightful role, which it deserves and has deserved for a long time within the community of nations. You can count on the unwavering and full support of Cuba in your righteous cause. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cuba. Venezuela, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, allow me to first of all to welcome the convening of this meeting and thank all the panelists for their valuable presentations. Mr. Chairman, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela reiterates its firm commitment to the Palestinian cause, as well as our unshakable solidarity with the heroic Palestinian people in their heroic fight for their inalienable rights, including the right to self-determination. In this context, we'd like to express a very serious concern for the patent and systematic violations by the occupying power over the past 2 weeks, which has led to the killing of over 1,000 innocent civilians, including women and children, as well as the displacement of hundreds of thousands and the destruction of public and private infrastructure. Based on that, we'd like to express our rejection for the harshening of Israeli occupation regime, which now applies to humanitarian personnel, as demonstrated by what happened recently. In this dark panorama, we'd like to insist again and again on the necessity of a process of accountability, which puts an end to the current cycle of impunity, which, in addition to the double standards of certain countries, all this encourages the genocidal practices of Israel, thus making a mockery of the international community, making a mockery of the Security Council and the General Assembly, as well as making a mockery of the basic norms of international law. However, while this is taking place, and in the absence of a permanent ceasefire, we cannot continue to postpone measures to ensure protection to the noble Palestinian people that deserve to live in peace, as Mr. Khatib correctly stated. Now, the entire reality and the continuing deterioration of the situation on the ground continues once again the clear strategy of Israel that seeks to make non-viable or even destroy the two-state solution. And it is here that our delegation thinks that this committee should play a key role to preserve the possibility of a two-state solution that is based on the broadest possible consensus. The international conference that will take place in June under the auspices of the General Assembly must be a turning point, not only in preserving a political horizon, but also in generating a clear path with concrete steps that make it possible to make the two-state solution a reality. We believe that this committee can make a valuable contribution to the success of that conference. Mr. Chairman, Venezuela considers that the time has come to translate words into deeds and into concrete results. You can count on the decisive support of my country, of my government, and of our entire people to all efforts and initiatives aimed at achieving the independence of the state of Palestine, with East Jerusalem as its capital in the pre-1967 borders, and as a fully fledged member of our organization. In conclusion, I'd like to stress that the time has come for us to fulfill the promise of peace, justice, development, and freedom to the Palestinian people contained in the UN Charter. The time has come to pay back the historic debt that we all owe to the Palestinian people. This would be the best possible demonstration of our renewed commitment to our charter and to this organization as we celebrate the 80th anniversary of this organization. This would also allow us to fully implement the mandate entrusted to this committee. Thank you very much.
Venezuela. I now give the floor to Kuwait.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If you allow me, I'll speak in my mother tongue, in Arabic. I would like to thank all those who made briefings today. As a young man, I would like to address my brother, Basel. First of all, your presence among us is an honor to us. We are proud of you. It is a privilege to have you. What you and your team have done in producing this film, you must know it is not just a movie. It's not a film. The real conflict is not international legitimacy. international legitimacy over decades, and international law have always been siding by Palestine because it is the right cause. It is the easiest cause to be defended today. But the real conflict is the knowledge by communities and societies of the right, the injustice inflicted upon Palestinians over decades, every day, every moment, every second of the day. So, my dear brother, you have to know that what you have done is enormous achievement through which you managed to change the perception of the world about the situation in Palestine. And you have to know, the more arrogant the occupying power behaves in this organization and the other platforms, they have to know that Palestine will continue to produce the noble people like Basel. There are 1,000 other Basels. I am younger than you. I'm less than you in age and status. Yet, I believe we all have to stand and give you the applause you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kuwait. I now give the floor to India, followed by Nicaragua. India.
Thank you, Chair. The committee meets today at a crucial time. We heard from the briefers about suffering of the Palestinian people, about the daunting challenges they face in their daily lives. Resumption of violence has severely impacted the lives of people. India has been clear and consistent in our call for immediate cessation of violence all through the conflict. No solutions emerge from the battlefield. Violence does not offer any solutions. Therefore, hostilities must end immediately. A ceasefire needs to be in place. People deserve the right to lead normal lives. Humanitarian operations need to be carried out in an unimpeded manner. Difficulties in dealing with the implementation of such operations need to be addressed. Aid needs to be facilitated. We reiterate that the way forward involves dialogue and diplomacy. These are the best means to deal with the ongoing situation and conflict. To this end, we call on parties concerned to adopt the path of negotiation, dialogue, and diplomacy. India's commitment to the Palestinian people is unwavering in nature. We have demonstrated this commitment in multiple ways. We have undertaken people-centric projects in different sectors as per the needs of the people. We also extend assistance and support through multilateral organization. A case in point is the supply of 65 tons of medicines to UNRWA and Palestine Ministry of Health in October and November 2024. As the first non-Arab country to recognize the state of Palestine, India also supports Palestine's membership of the UN. A key pillar of our long-standing and consistent policy has been our call for a negotiated two-state solution. At this juncture, we reiterate that such a solution involves the establishment of a sovereign, independent, and viable state of Palestine within secure and recognized borders, living side by side in peace with Israel. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, India. Nicaragua, you have the floor. Ambassador.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nicaragua would like to thank the Committee on the Inalienable Rights of Palestinians and you for convening this meeting. We'd like to express our deepest gratitude and appreciation to the brothers and sisters who have spoken today and shared with us the experience, the day-to-day experience of the heroic Palestinian people. The suffering of our Palestinian brothers and sisters, the the pain that you experience every day is also our pain. When Palestine bleeds, the entire world bleeds. And the tragedy of Palestine is the tragedy of humankind. As you know very well, all the people around the world have gone out in the streets to show their solidarity with Palestine. And as you have stated so well, everything, the possible and the impossible, has to be done to stop this genocide, for which the United Nations bears historic responsibility since the very beginning. Nicaragua has supported and will continue to support all initiatives that the Palestinian people considers necessary to make a reality of free Palestinian state, for the end of occupation and for the return of Palestinians to their homes. You can always count on this historic solidarity that unites our two peoples. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nicaragua. We would like now to open to Jordan. You want to take the floor? Go ahead, Jordan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And thanks for holding this meeting. Nothing to be added really. Jordan's position is well known to everyone, and I just want to commend what my colleagues said. Basel, we salute you. We salute your art and the picture that you have masterfully made, the award-winning picture, and you are a source of inspiration indeed for generations to come, for all Palestinian children and for Arabs alike. You are a role model to them. So bravo, and we salute you. And just to echo what the Ambassador of Egypt has also said, that we are indeed in the camp of peace. The war in Gaza has to stop. And the ceasefire deal has to be reinstated, and aid should flow once again, and as Dr. in a sustainable, of course, fashion. And as Dr. Younis said, it's a common responsibility. It's international community's collective responsibility. To stand really for the principles and values that were enshrined in international law and in OHCHR. We have to stand for these principles and to work towards achieving peace, a lasting peace that will provide equal futures, the future that the Palestinian people deserves. Towards, of course, as I said, achieving peace on the basis of the two-state solution on the 1967 borders. Thank you so much again. Thanks again, and welcome in New York, Basel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jordan. I would like now to open to others to participate with comments eventually. Are there any delegation who would like to take the floor at this time? I see none. Let me proceed with the last agenda item, other matters. I would like now to inform you about recent and upcoming activities of the committee. In February, the Bureau conducted its first round of outreach with the elected members of the Security Council. This afternoon, the Bureau will meet with Mrs. Natalie Buckley, UNRWA Deputy Commissioner General, on the situation in Gaza. On April 29, I will deliver a statement on the Security Council quarterly debate on the Middle East, including the Palestinian question. On May 15-16, the committee intends to hold the commemoration of the Nakba as mandated by NGA Resolution 782 of 9 December 2024, jointly with the committee's first consultations for 2025 with civil society organizations working on the question of Palestine. Plans are underway to hold the Joint Committee OIC Annual International Conference on the question of Jerusalem in July in Dakar, Senegal, following the planned international conference on Palestine in June. Let me conclude by informing that all statements delivered today will be available on UNISPAL website. Are there any other matters to be raised? Yes, go ahead. You have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'm David Wildman. I'm one of the co-chairs for the NGO working group here in New York on the question of Palestine. And I want to just thank the committee for hosting the event today, but also thank all the panelists. And just quickly, in hearing all the urgency that people have raised, I know the emergency special session of the General Assembly last September called for severe arms restrictions and other sanctions. And so I would just commend to the committee at this point from what Basel and Younis and others have shared today and what we all know is happening on the ground to stop this genocide, that we strengthen our efforts and that the committee make recommendations to the General Assembly for strengthening arms embargoes and trade sanctions on Israel until it ends the genocide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for reminding us these important decisions, and we will work indeed in the committee toward that effect. Are there any other comments, matter to be discussed? Let me invite you to watch the documentary No Other Line in this conference room at 1 p.m. sharp. The meeting is adjourned.